When my mom was first diagnosed, I was in my final semester of college. Graduation was around the corner, internships were lined up, and for once, life finally seemed to be moving in the right direction. Then the doctor said she had a chronic, degenerative illness, something that would only get worse over time and had no real cure. From that moment on, my world flipped upside down. I quit my internship, skipped graduation, put everything on hold, and moved back home. My dad had passed away years ago, and my older sister, Sarah, lived in another city with her husband and 2 kids. When I called to tell her mom was seriously ill, all she said was, "I'll come down in a few days. You're there, right?" Yeah, I was there. And just like that, I became mom's full-time caregiver. The first month was overwhelming. I had to learn everything: how to schedule meds, take her to appointments, track her diet. I helped her to the bathroom, changed her clothes, stayed up through the nights when she had fevers or body pain. Sometimes she would cry silently for hours, and I'd bite my tongue to hold back my frustration. But through all of it, I reminded myself, this was my mom, the woman who raised me. Now it was my turn. But even the strongest people have their limits. When the same routine repeats for years, without a break, without gratitude, it chips away at your soul. Sarah visited maybe once every 6 to 8 months. And even then, it was for a day or two, squeezed between her kids' school activities or a shopping trip. She'd sit on our couch with her overpriced coffee and say things like, "This must be kind of therapeutic for you, right?" Like I was some saint. Like I was enjoying watching my life slowly dissolve into endless caregiving. Most of the expenses for mom's care came out of my pocket. I picked up part-time remote work, but sometimes even that wasn't possible, especially when mom had sudden emergencies. My savings were gone in the first 6 months. I started taking loans. My friends from college slowly drifted away. Their lives were moving forward. Mine was stuck. One night, mom watched me organizing her meds and said, "I'll never forget what you're doing for me." Her eyes were wet. Mine too. In that moment, it felt like maybe it was all worth it. But something always gnawed at me: Sarah's absence. Every time I asked her to come help, she had a new excuse. A vacation, a school event, her husband's work trip. Mom always defended her. "She's just busy, sweetheart, and you're so strong." I was strong, or maybe I had no choice but to be. But inside, I was burning out. Mom's condition worsened over the years. She needed a wheelchair full-time. Her memory started to fade. Sometimes she'd forget who I was and call me by my childhood nickname. Then she'd snap back into clarity and say, "Don't ever leave me, okay?" She didn't know how many times I had already left pieces of myself behind. One afternoon, Sarah showed up unannounced. She walked in with an expensive gift bag, a designer purse, and that same rehearsed, "I've just been so busy" smile. Mom lit up when she saw her, like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. I thought maybe she was finally going to help out. But nope. She left the next day saying, "There's a charity gala I really can't miss. You've got this, right?" I stayed silent. I had learned that saying less hurt less. And then came the day I had been dreading. Mom's health crashed. We rushed to the ICU. I sat by her bedside for 3 days, holding her hand, praying, hoping. But then the monitor flatlined. She was gone. Just like that. I organized the funeral, handled all the logistics. Sarah showed up, cried loudly, and told everyone how wonderful Mom was. I didn't say much. I was too tired. The real shock came a few days after the funeral, when the will was read. The lawyer's office was cold, not physically, but emotionally. Sterile. The kind of place where nothing good ever happens. I sat there exhausted, still grieving, and Sarah strolled in like she was just there to sign a few forms before heading to brunch. Her sunglasses were still on when she sat down. The lawyer cleared his throat and began reading Mom's will. At first, everything sounded standard. The usual heartfelt lines about loving both of her daughters, about how proud she was of the women we'd become. Then came the part that changed everything. All assets, including the family home, savings, jewelry, and remaining estate, are to be inherited solely by my elder daughter, Sarah. I thought I misheard. Surely there was more. A trust maybe, something for me, but no. That was it. My name was mentioned just once more, in a brief line thanking me for being a wonderful caregiver and asking Sarah to look after me in the future. I couldn't breathe. I sat frozen in that chair, staring at the floor, while Sarah cleared her throat awkwardly and said, "Well, I guess Mom knew what she was doing." The lawyer handed us copies of the will, and that was that. Sarah hugged me outside the office. "This must feel weird," she said, not even pretending to be sympathetic. "But I think Mom just wanted me to have a little more because I have a family to take care of." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had taken care of Mom for 5 years. I gave up my career, my friends, my life. I wiped her tears, bathed her, sat with her through every sleepless night and terrifying ER visit. And the sister who showed up twice a year with a bottle of wine and some perfume got everything. I went back home to an apartment I could barely afford, filled with secondhand furniture and overdue bills. Sarah, meanwhile, moved into the house I grew up in. She redecorated it within a month, got new marble countertops, and posted about it online with the hashtag #LauthorForeverHome. The betrayal started eating me alive. I tried to push the bitterness down, telling myself Mom had just made a mistake, that maybe she didn't update the will properly. But deep down, it felt worse. Like I'd been invisible all along. A loyal ghost. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want the house. I just wanted acknowledgement. Some kind of justice. Something that said, "Yes, we saw you. Yes, you mattered." A few weeks later, I visited Sarah at the old house to pick up a few things Mom had promised me. A quilt she sewed in college, an old locket, a bookshelf I'd refinished as a teen. Sarah greeted me at the door with a tight smile. "Oh, about that," she said. "I actually donated most of that stuff. I didn't think you'd want it cluttering your place." I just stood there. I couldn't even argue. My chest felt hollow, but then something happened. As I turned to leave, Sarah said, "Hey, you should come around more. I know Mom wanted us to be close." And that broke me. Not because it was cruel, but because she genuinely thought I'd be okay with it all. Like her taking everything was some kind of natural order of things. That night, I finally allowed myself to feel it all. The grief, the resentment, the loss. I wrote everything down. Every sleepless night. Every sacrifice. Every hospital form. Every conversation where Mom promised she'd take care of me. I didn't know what I'd do with it, but I couldn't keep it inside anymore. Then came the letter. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. It was handwritten by Mom. The postmark was from over a year ago. Apparently, she gave it to a neighbor to mail at the right time, in case anything ever happened to her. My hands shook as I opened it. The envelope smelled faintly of lavender, Mom's favorite scent. Her handwriting on the front was shaky, the letters slightly slanted, but unmistakably hers. My name, written in blue ink, underlined once. Inside was a folded note, just 2 pages. No legal language, no formalities, just my mother in her own words. "My dearest," it began, "if you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. And I need you to know that I didn't forget you. Not for 1 second." I sat down. My chest felt tight. "I know what I put you through. I saw the sacrifices you made. I heard you crying when you thought I was asleep. I watched you grow older in front of me. Not just in years, but in weariness. I know you gave up your life for me. And I will never be able to repay that." Tears blurred the words on the page. I blinked hard and kept reading. "You've always been the strong one. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the one who showed up every single day, without needing praise. I didn't always say thank you, and I should have. I also know how much it will hurt you when you hear the will. You'll feel like I betrayed you. And in a way, I did. But please understand, I didn't trust Sarah. My breath caught. I knew if I left everything to you, she would find ways to make your life miserable. She'd contest the will, drag it through court, and leave you emotionally wrecked. She's always had a way of twisting things to her advantage. I've seen it for years. But she values things, possessions, appearances, and she can't handle the guilt that comes with actually being responsible for someone else. That's why I left her the house and the money, because it'll weigh on her, because it'll never feel clean. What I'm leaving you isn't listed in that will, because it's not something that can be split or taken away. In the small brown chest under my old bed, the one with the broken lock, is everything I ever saved for you. Letters, photos, my journals, and something else. The details of a bank account I opened in your name 3 years ago. I've been quietly transferring money into it. Not much, but over time it added up. It's yours. No one else knows it exists. It's not just money, my love. It's your restart. Your second chance. Take it. Leave this place if you need to. Build something for yourself. And never, ever believe for a second that I didn't love you with everything I had. You were my greatest comfort, my strongest anchor, my quiet hero. Love, always, Mom. I sat there stunned. I didn't even realize I was crying until a drop hit the paper. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was about knowing that I hadn't been invisible after all. That my years with her hadn't been erased by a signature on a piece of paper. I drove back to the house, Sarah's house now, without even texting her. The chest was still there, dusty and half covered in old blankets. The lock popped open easily with a twist of my fingers. Inside were stacks of papers, old birthday cards I had made for her as a kid, photo albums, and dozens of letters, many of them addressed to me but never sent. She had been writing to me for years, pouring out her guilt, her gratitude, her fears. It felt like I was discovering a whole new side of her, hidden in plain sight. At the bottom, wrapped in a floral scarf, was a leather folder. Inside were the bank documents. I checked the account the next day. There was just over $147,000 in it. I sat in the bank parking lot for a long time, staring at the numbers on the screen. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. She had seen me. She had tried to protect me in her own quiet, strategic way. I didn't say a word to Sarah. I didn't need to. But I started planning, slowly, carefully, not revenge. Something better, a way out. I didn't rush. Instead, I let Sarah believe she'd won. She moved into the house like a queen returning to her castle, redecorated everything, threw out the furniture Mom had loved, and turned the living room into her meditation space. She even hosted a celebration of life party where she invited friends to tour the house and told them stories about how she had been there every step of Mom's final days. I didn't argue. I let her talk. Let her pretend. Meanwhile, I found an apartment across the state line. Quiet neighborhood. Trees that lined the sidewalks. A small balcony. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Paid the deposit in full. Bought a used car that didn't break down twice a month. Took time to sleep, really sleep, for the first time in years without worrying if Mom needed water or her medication or if the nurse would show up. I started painting again. It had been my thing before the caretaking, before life folded in on itself. The brushes felt stiff in my hand at first, like I'd forgotten how to move them. But soon I found the rhythm. I poured everything into those canvases. Grief, relief, confusion, the bittersweet edge of freedom. And then one day, I got a message from an old friend who worked at a local gallery. She'd seen my work on social media, asked if I'd ever consider showing. It felt surreal. Fast forward a few months, my first exhibition sold out. Pieces that came from the darkest corners of my heart were now hanging in strangers' homes. One woman said a painting of mine made Her cry in the middle of the gallery. Another man offered to commission a series. For the first time in my adult life, people were seeing me, not as the responsible one, the caregiver, the one who stayed behind, but as an artist. As someone with something to say. That's when the phone calls from Sarah started. First it was casual. Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you. How's life? Then more frequent. So, I heard you moved. Weird you didn't say anything. Eventually, they turned panicked. I need to ask you something. Do you remember how Mom handled the taxes? Because I just got a notice from the IRS and it doesn't look good. I didn't reply. Then came the real bombshell. An email, long and frantic. Apparently, Mom's house had a second mortgage Sarah didn't know about. The cash from the will hadn't covered all the estate taxes. Sarah had been spending like she hit the lottery. New furniture, yoga retreats, even a down payment on a car she couldn't afford. She thought she'd inherited a clean slate. She hadn't. The bank was threatening foreclosure. She tried calling me 9 times in one day. I finally picked up. Why didn't you tell me? She snapped. I was silent for a second, then said, Tell you what? That Mom had debts, that there were responsibilities. I thought, her voice cracked, I thought you handled all this while she was alive. You thought wrong, I said. You inherited everything, remember? That includes the EHAM problems. There was silence on the other end. Then, you're being cruel. No, I said quietly. I'm just finally choosing not to carry something that was never mine. She didn't respond, just hung up. I heard later through a cousin that she'd sold the house, barely broke even, moved into a much smaller apartment, started working part-time again. Apparently, she tells people she had to downsize for her mental health. Let her have the narrative. I don't care anymore. Mom's journals, the ones she left me, became my greatest comfort. She wrote about her own regrets, about not protecting me sooner. But more than that, she wrote about hope. She believed I'd find myself again, someday. I think I did. I now live in a small artist community. I teach workshops. I paint full-time. One of my pieces was recently featured in a national magazine with a caption that read, Born from pain, rooted in resilience. I didn't give them that quote, but it fits. Sometimes people ask me about my family. I tell them the truth, that I took care of my mother until her last breath. That she made a decision that broke my heart, but also set me free. That I had a sister once who never showed up, not when it mattered, and that now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to. Be not rich, not famous, but whole, finally.